Hello Barnhart, we're here today to talk about the multi-purpose pump. It's a piece of equipment that was engineered, designed, and fabricated in-house by Barnhart. The multi-purpose pump is used to operate and power various types of equipment from hydraulic jacks to the Barnhart slide system. There are three basic types of multi-purpose pump. We have the electric, the diesel, and the propane. The biggest difference between the three is the electric multi-purpose pump does not have a throttle control. It basically has one output. Whatever the electric motor is putting out, that is the speed you will operate at. The other two multi-purpose pumps can be controlled via the throttle. You can idle it up or down to produce more RPMs, more hydraulic oil flow, and get a better rate of lift out of your equipment. So today we're going to talk about the two different sides of the multi-purpose pump. We have a low pressure side, we have a high pressure side. The low pressure side of the multi-purpose pump is typically used for anything that requires 3,500 PSI or less to operate. On the low pressure side, we have our equal volume controls and our equal pressure controls. Those controls cannot be used at the same time. Whenever you're operating with the equal volume controls for the slide system, that is the only side of the pump that you can operate at that time. On the high pressure side, it's usually used for anything up to 10,000 PSI. The high pressure side has a relief valve in it that we can use to dial up the system pressure for whatever type of equipment that we're using. If your equipment only has a 7,500 maximum PSI, you use the relief valve to dial the pressure down to 7,500, and then you can operate the equipment safely without overpowering it. So on this side of the pump, we got our pump designated between high pressure and low pressure with the yellow piece of tape. On the low pressure side, we have equal volume 1 and 2. Equal volume 1 and 2 are used to operate our Barnhart slide system. The slide system has two basic functions, extend or retract. And the pressure that you're going to get out of the pump is whatever that specific type of pump has for a low system pressure. Electric and propane will be a maximum of 2,500 PSI, where diesel will be a maximum of 3,500 PSI. So to operate the equal volume controls, to operate our slide system, you simply have to start the pump, and then you're going to pull back on the two controls at the same time. The equal volume circuit has a flow divider in it that is going to evenly disperse the flow coming from the pump to both sides of the EV output. That gives you an equal rate of flow and speed for your slide system, no matter what type of weight you have on the slide system. So you pull down on the controls to extend, and you push up on the controls to retract. Each one of the controls for equal volume 1 and 2 have a gauge that corresponds to extend and retract. So the low pressure side has a master gauge that is going to read what the pump pressure is on the low side. When you're operating equal volume 1 and 2, if you pull back extend, the gauges for extend should read the output that you're getting to the slide system. If you're retracting, the retract gauges will show the pressure on the that you're getting to the retract side of the slide system. The equal pressure side of the system also has equal pressure 1 and 2. Same thing for equal pressure 1 and 2. Whatever the master gauge is reading, that if you pull back on the handles to extend, that pressure will go to the extend side of the equipment. This is the high pressure side of the pump. It also has a master gauge that's going to read the output of whatever the system pressure is set at. We're going to use this relief valve to actually set the pressure on the high side. You never want the pressure on the high side of the pump to exceed the maximum operating pressure of the equipment that you're operating. Just like the low side of the pump, each one of the high pressure outputs have corresponding gauges for extend and retract. So depending on which ball valve you have open, then you're going to get the pressure output to those two jacks, and your pressure on the gauges ought to read the same thing as what the master gauge is reading. These are the ball valves. You have 4 ball valves that control the outputs to high pressure 1 through 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have a directional control valve here which tells the fluid to either go to extend or retract. And then we also have a high pressure selector that when you engage it in high pressure, it's going to put whatever pressure you have the system set to the outputs. When you pull the selector back to low pressure, you're going to get the pressure put out by the low side of the pump. All right, so for proper operation of the pump, we need to go ahead and start it up and make sure all of the controls are functioning correctly and the gauges are reading appropriately. So first thing we'll want to do is make sure our dolly Goldhofer valve is in the down position. When it's pulled up, it's giving a constant flow of supply to the dolly Goldhofer outputs. And so you never want to start your pump up with that engaged. So we're going to make sure that that valve is pushed down. We're going to start our pump. We're going to engage the equal volume controls, pull them back to extend. The extend is going to read out whatever the low pressure system side of the pump is putting out. Always want to make sure that the gauges correspond with the master gauge. To go to retract, you would simply push forward. Make sure the gauges are reading appropriately. To bleed the pressure off, we're going to need to shut the pump off. Let it wind down. Once the motor stops turning, you're able to bleed the pressure off to 0. Very important to know that the controls for equal volume 1 and 2 are a spring-centered control. When you push them up and let go, they are going to automatically return to center. Same thing with the equal pressure controls. They are a spring-centered valve. Push them forward or backward and release them, and they will return back to neutral. So we've tested the equal volume controls. Now we're going to go to the equal pressure controls. We tested equal volume together because of the flow divider in it. We'll do the equal pressure gauges separately. So for EP1, go to extend. You see the extend gauge rise to the 2200 PSI being put out by the pump. Go to retract, you get 2200 on the retract side. Same thing for equal pressure 2. We'll go to extend, get 2200 on the extend side, and go to retract. Once again, to bleed it off, we got to make sure the pump is not turning. Let it wind down, and then you're able to bleed it off to 0 pressure. Always important to bleed the pump down to 0 pressure before you walk away from it. You never want to leave the pump with stored energy on it. All right, so now we're going to test the high pressure side of the pump. We're going to do that first by make sure the Goldhofer dolly valve is down. We'll start the pump, engage our directional control to extend. High pressure selector goes into high pressure. The pump is now set at 7,000 PSI. So what we'll want to do, we'll loosen up our wing nut. We'll dial it up to about 8,000 PSI. Close the wing nut. High pressure selector goes back to neutral to stop the flow of oil. Then we'll bleed the pressure off of the high pressure side by taking it back to retract. Once the pressure is bled, we'll open up the 4 outputs that go to the high pressure. All 4 of them are open. When we go to extend, once I put high pressure to it, the extend gauges all ought to come up and match what the high pressure master gauge has on it. You can see all the gauges read the same pressure as the master gauge. To stop the flow, we go back to neutral, return the directional control. To retract, bleed the pressure. We'll close our high pressure ball valves and shut the pump off. So now we'll look at the output bank for the multi-purpose pump. All of the multi-purpose pumps look very similar to this one. The top row is going to be our equal pressure outputs. We have a male and female for EP1, male and female for EP2. Second row will be equal volume 1 and 2. This is the area where the slide system will be hooked up. You got a male and female for EV1, male, female for EV2. And then the 2 lower sections are for the high pressure outputs, HP 1 through 4. The difference between the 2, the EP and EV are going to be quick connects where they're just a collar fitting that you pull the collar back, insert the other fitting, release it, and it's hooked together. Where the high pressure fittings are going to be screw lock fittings. The screw lock fittings have a more positive connection. You actually have to screw them together. You can see here that they're threaded. And so you'll thread them together, tighten it up with a pair of channel locks to make sure it's completely tight, and then you'll be ready to operate your equipment. High pressure runs off a maximum of 10,000 PSI hose, where the low pressure is usually going to be a less than 3,500 PSI. Thanks for watching, and that's the multi-purpose pump.